Back to Terry McCready.
The laughs keep coming when Bert Kreischer hits Fantasy Springs Resort Casino May 22nd. Big energy, big comedy, one wild night. Get tickets now at FantasySpringsResort.com. That's FantasySpringsResort.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 15.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
Try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth. Oh, wait. But I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Yeah. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. All right. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from historic Lamont Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me. Back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, we'll be joined by Galen Druke of GD Politics to unpack Trump's historically low approval numbers. If you were listening yesterday, I hope you were. We got a chance to unpack that just a bit as the news was breaking about these numbers now being a second-term low. So we'll unpack what these numbers actually mean when Galen Druke joins us again on the top side of Hour 2. On the B side of Hour 2, we'll talk to the Bishop William J. Barber II about the rally he led yesterday outside the White House. Speaking of the White House, so Bishop Barber on the back side of Hour 2. Got a great show today. In our third hour, 2 more conversations. Up first, our resident physician, Dr. Robert Drummond, on a number of health and mental health challenges. Think Cheyenne Bryant. I don't know why he's itching to talk about Cheyenne Bryant. I think I do. It's about this whole, for those who have been tracking this ridiculousness, that's all I can call it. I think that physicians who are legitimate doctors have a problem with people, even in academic circles, referring to themselves as doctors when they're really not. PhDs and beyond. So Cheyenne Bryant done stepped into it, apparently. I'm just catching up to this story myself. It's a bunch of, again, ridiculousness, but I think, again, Dr. Drummond and anybody else who's earned an MD or earned a PhD don't take nicely to Negroes lying about having doctorate degrees. So we'll let Dr. Drummond go in on Dr. Bryant or Cheyenne Bryant. For those of you who like that kind of stuff, I'm going to give you some for a half hour today on the top side of Hour 3. On the B side of Hour 3, we'll get more serious and talk to somebody who is legitimate. She is the mayor of L.A. because she was elected to be the mayor of L.A. Karen Bass joins us today on the backside of Hour 3. So a great show. Again, Galen Druke, top side of the second hour. William Barber, bottom side of the second hour. Dr. Drummond, top side of Hour 3. And we'll close today's show. That's how you close the show, right? The mayor comes in. Talk to Karen Bass today about this campaign and how she sees it just a couple of weeks. What's today, Tuesday? Yeah, so 2 weeks from today is the mayor's race. So we'll talk to Karen Bass on the backside of our third hour. Speaking of politics, before I get to our contributor, John Wood Jr., why not start today's show with this?
Why does it look like it might be the year of the ballot or the bullet? Because Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now for too long. And they're fed up. They've become disenchanted. They've become disillusioned. They've become dissatisfied. And all of this has built up frustrations in the black community that makes the black community throughout America today more explosive than all of the atomic bombs the Russians can ever invent. Whenever you got a racial powder keg sitting in your lap, you're in more trouble than if you had an atomic powder keg sitting in your lap. When a racial powder keg goes off, it doesn't care who it knocks out the way. Understand this, it's dangerous. And in 1964, this seems to be the year. Because what can the white man use now to fool us? After he put down that march on Washington, and you see all through that now, he tricked you, had you marching down to Washington. Yes, had you marching back and forth between the feet of a dead man named Lincoln and another dead man named George Washington, singing "We Shall Overcome."
So I'm going to let that breathe for a second. I don't even want to put John Wood Jr. in that situation. I think Malcolm may be too much for John Wood Jr. He may be too much for Karen Bass. He ain't too much for me. Why start with Brother Malcolm? Because today is his 101st birthday. Today would have been the 101st birthday of the Brother Minister Malcolm X. Last year on his 100th birthday, as you recall, we had a great conversation with his eldest child, Ambassador Atala Shabazz, who was on this program literally 1 year ago today, celebrating his centennial birth. So here we are a year later, celebrating the 101st birthday of Malcolm X. Now, that clip is rich and it's powerful. As a matter of fact, Miles, when we come back, when we come forward, I want to play it again, right? Let's play that one more again because I want, there's so much in there that we're going to spend a few minutes us unpacking the parallels between what Brother Malcolm was saying about the state of black people and the black vote. In 1964 versus 2026, 1968 versus 2026. There are some parallels to be drawn from then to now. We'll start with that and then jump from there. It's going to be a great show. Glad to have you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This show was built for you, for the community, for the culture, for everyone who wants more than headlines, for everyone who wants meaning. Tavis Smiley has always believed that public media can change lives. And every single day, that's what he comes to work to do. You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Your voice, your issues, your show.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic, and when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed, as I mentioned earlier, in case you just tuned in, we're talking to LA Mayor Karen Bass later in today's program, the last half hour. Yesterday, James Clyburn was on this program. They are now, he decided at 85 to run for re-election. It may not matter because the governor of South Carolina on Friday announced they're going after his seat, just as they did the black seat in Tennessee, as other states are doing likewise. They're targeting Benny Thompson's seat in Mississippi. They've already taken out Emmanuel Cleaver in Kansas City. So the number of CBC members is dwindling by the day. I'm just keeping track, like literally every day. Who's being targeted today? Whose seat is being snatched away, ripped away today? And so just an amazing conversation with James Clyburn yesterday. But what does it matter if between now and the midterms, and the governor in South Carolina at least said yesterday, they want this done before the midterms. So they're trying to do to James Clyburn what they did, again, to that black seat in Tennessee, in Memphis to be exact. So they ain't playing. So this is a critical time for black voters. It is a critical time for the black vote. All this talk about Hakeem Jeffries becoming the first black speaker of the House. There's a lot to unpack. And so Mayor Bass will be here later in this hour. We'll talk politics with Galen Druke at the top of the second hour. So it's going to be a lot of politics today. I'm excited about that because, again, this is one of those moments where we got to tap in, right? Dig deeper. And so because today is Malcolm's 101st birthday, I thought I would start with Brother Malcolm to kind of sort of frame this conversation, and it is brilliant. Most of what he had to say was just that, brilliant. But it's just fascinating for me how you can pull a clip from 1964 and use it to frame a conversation in 2026. That's prescience, that is insight, that's prophetic, pick your word. But here's Brother Malcolm, once again from 1964, framing our conversation today in 2026.
Why does it look like it might be the year of the ballot or the bullet? Because Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now for too long, and they're fed up. They've become disenchanted. They've become disillusioned. They've become dissatisfied. And all of this has built up frustrations in the black community that makes the black community throughout America today more explosive than all of the atomic bombs the Russians can ever invent. Whenever you got a racial powder keg sitting in your lap, you're in more trouble than if you had an atomic powder keg sitting in your lap. When a racial powder keg goes off, it doesn't care who it knocks out the way. Understand this, it's dangerous. And in 1964, this seems to be the year. Because what can the white man use now to fool us? After he put down that march on Washington, and you see all through that now, he tricked you, had you marching down to Washington. Yes, had you marching back and forth between the feet of a dead man named Lincoln and another dead man named George Washington, singing "We Shall Overcome."
So I had them bring me some hot tea today. And Miles, can you zoom in on this coffee cup, this mug? I just happened to look. I'm just at Malcolm. Happened to look down at what's on the mug that I'm drinking. Can you see that, John?
Yeah, I can see.
For those watching on the app right now on the website, you can actually see this. For those who are not watching, I'll tell you what the mug says. So I just said, bring me some tea, please. They brought me some tea, and the mug says uppity with a black fist. Uppity, rise up, rise above. That's the mug I'm drinking this hot tea out of right now. Uppity.
Get you uppity in the morning.
Yeah. Rise up, rise above. You listen to Malcolm, and then you looking down, and you see a mug that says uppity with a black fist in the air. Rise up, rise above. I'm done. All right, John, first of all, how are you?
I'm good, Brother Tavis. How about yourself, man? I'm at one of my favorite places to be.
Well,
right here at the
glad to have you here, man. You know me. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, all things considered. Let's jump right in. I didn't even want to color this question more than this. What did you hear Brother Malcolm saying then? How do you see the frame that we're in now?
Well, Malcolm, season of the Battle of the Bullet. Malcolm was a person who spoke for many in expressing skepticism as to the coalitional sort of relatively, you could say, because really Dr. King it would probably be incorrect to call Dr. King himself an optimist, but like yourself, Tavis, Dr. King was full of hope. And Dr. King believed that in appealing to the conscience of the nation, the legacy of the founders, and Lincoln, as he did when he delivered the I Have a Dream speech, that he would be able to create the cultural and social context for genuine social and electoral progress in the country. Malcolm was deeply skeptical about that because a year later, you had the Watts riots, you had police abuse, you had Jim Crow as vicious as it ever was. And so Malcolm was of the opinion that we had, that the dream was in fact a delusion. Dream was in fact a nightmare. But of course, the irony here is that we've played Malcolm here today to frame where we are in 2026 in a moment in time where it is true black collective voting power is being aggressively and proactively undermined, and yet the gains that we seek to preserve here were the gains that were secured by Martin's movement and Martin's leadership as exemplified in the I Have a Dream speech that Malcolm was criticizing. So on the one hand, it is prescient in the sense that Malcolm is identifying something happening back then which correlates to things happening now, although you and I will get to the nuances and the similarities and the differences, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that in the in-between of it, right, the ground that we are defending now is still the gains that were established then in the era of not just Malcolm, but the era of Martin and the leadership of the civil rights movement as it stood at that time. So the ironies abound.
Yeah, no argument there. I I love Brother Malcolm and can listen to him as much as I listen to my hero, Dr. King.
Oh, yeah.
This audience knows, you know this, we've discussed it many times on air, off air. I regard Dr. King as the greatest American this country's ever produced. That's my assessment, although I love me some Malcolm X. But my one critique of Malcolm would be, his critiques notwithstanding, Dr. King put points on the scoreboard.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
when you get seminal legislation passed, like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, it's hard for Malcolm to argue with that legislation being placed on the books. Now, if he were here right now, he'd have a whole lot to say. To your point about the U-turn, the 180 that many in America are intent on actualizing. But
can I say one quick thing in honor of Malcolm though?
Sure.
Just because his obviously his birthday here is. Malcolm's significance does transcend even the temporal headlines and so forth. We don't want to linger on it too long, perhaps, but everything you said about Martin is right. Martin put points on the scoreboard. He led a movement that moved us forward tangibly. You don't have that deep psychological reinvigoration of black manhood and collective black identity without Malcolm X.
No question.
You do not have
no
that.
Question
right?
Nope.
And he represents an arc in African American history from a psychological point of view, which, if Dr. King was the successor in some sense of Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X was the successor of Marcus Garvey. He opened up the deeper sense of our identity and dignity as a people, just as on the basis of us being who we are. And so I never want to undersell that contribution.
I'm laughing at myself. I'm about to say something that I know is going to upset you. Upset you primarily because we ain't really got time to unpack this.
Okay.
I'm going to say it anyway so that you and I can talk about it offline.
There you go.
And maybe when you come back again, we'll spend just an hour. Maybe we'll invite Dr. West to join us in this conversation.
Man, I love it.
We'll spend an hour just talking about this. You said earlier, you initially referred to Dr. King as an optimist. You said, well, that might not be accurate. He was more in the hope frame. And my read of King's work all these years later is that King, in some ways, starts out as an optimist. My critique of King is he's my guy, but my critique is he's a little bit too much in the frame of believing what is possible in America for black folk, for the Negro, when he starts. So I would say he starts out as a bit more optimistic. Over time, he moves more into the frame of hope.
Yeah, right.
And at the end, this Negro's downright skeptical. I mean,
right.
Yeah, that last sermon, as I say to this audience all the time,
Yeah.
if King had lived to get back to Memphis, as you know, you read the book,
Right.
Death of a King, my book about the last year, King was going to preach a sermon called Why America May Go to Hell. So here's Malcolm on this clip referring in 64 to the march in 63, and he's making a joke about it, right?
Right.
Malcolm didn't abide that march in 63. Here's King talking about I have a dream in 63. In 68, just 5 years later, he's going to preach a sermon called Why America May Go to. He didn't consign us to hell. But you see my point? King starts out, I think, as more optimistic. He moves into the realm of hope, and by the end, this Negro's skeptical.
Yeah, see, I agree with you, and I want to argue with you anyway. But I know that
give it to me. I got 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes of it.
Well, I mean, okay, so the 2-minute version is that everything that you say is true. When Dr. King begins, he's got a vision of moral transformation on the idea that we might be able to find a deeper goodwill as a people, achieve that beloved community. And as he pushes into action, ascends to the heights of civil rights leadership, the gains that are made in the realm of civil rights specifically, legal rights, and the cultural consensus across the country that says that the brutality of Jim Crow segregation is wrong, produces quick gains and quick changes. But then as we begin to move into the economic sphere of American inequality, and then as we begin to move into the questions of not just reforming the way things are going in the backwards sort of southern communities of Jim Crow, but in the big liberal cities of Chicago and the power centers of the North, et cetera, Dr. King comes to realize that the entrenched sort of systematic bias against black people goes far beyond just what was happening in the rural South. He already knew that, but he begins to come up against much more deeply entrenched and broad-scale forces of social, psychological, and systematic oppression. And so he fears in his terms that I may have integrated our people into a burning house as we move towards 1968. But of course, the thing that always anchored King is this deeply theologically rooted, spiritually rooted understanding that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice, and that it is the will of God ushering us towards a brighter day at the end of things. And so, yes, shift from optimism to hope, but that is not to undersell the fact that hope is the greater power anyway, right? And so, that's always got to be the headline. I would say that hope, by the results of history that followed him, was justified when you look at the fruits of the works of Martin Luther King Jr.
I find myself reminding people all the time when you talk about King that while he is my guy, King, again, starts out, I think, as more of an optimist, and I've never been. I am eternally a prisoner of hope. I think you're right. Hope is a stronger force, right? I've told this story many times. Maya Angelou and I, for 27 years, had this debate. Every time I saw her, we'd pick this fight up where we left it the last time. And she'd always ask me, what is the greater virtue? Love or courage? Love or courage? And she would tie that into a conversation again about hope, and I ain't got time to get into it right now. But the point is that I am not an optimist, especially in a moment like this. Optimism suggests there's a particular set of facts, circumstances, or conditions, something you can see, feel, or touch that gives you reason to believe that things are going to get better. That's Malcolm. That ain't never been the situation of Negroes. That's what Malcolm is. Malcolm didn't say it the way I just said it. But we've never had reason as black folk in this country to be optimistic. Never a moment ever where there was anything we could see, feel, or touch that gave us reason to believe that things were going to get better. So what are we? We are a people of hope. And that's why I am eternally a prisoner of hope, not an optimist, number one. Number two, I think the other thing, and there are a couple of things about King, so I'm glad we're on this right quick as we celebrate Malcolm's birthday today. There are some things that King said and did that I do disagree with. I get asked this question every now and then by people who are really tapped in. So, Tavis, you love Dr. King so much. Is there anything that King said or did that you disagree with? I said, yeah, a couple of things. Now, one of them you just put your fingertips on. When Martin was famously said, and people quote him all the time, you just did now, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. I don't believe that. I believe it has to be bent toward justice. It don't just bend. That's what I mean by Martin being a bit more optimistic than I think he should have been at times. The arc of the moral universe does not just of its own bend, B-E-N-D, toward justice. It's got to be bent. And right now, they're trying to bend it in the other direction.
Yeah, well,
you buy that?
I hear what you're saying from a matter of rhetoric. I do think that you and Martin are on the same page, though, because if Martin didn't fundamentally agree with what you were saying, he would have agreed with the white liberals who he was addressing in the letter from Birmingham jail, who believed that time, unaided by proactive action, would result in the justice and equality that Dr. King and other folks were waiting for. Right. And Dr. King responded to that by saying that that's not the way time works, hence the fierce urgency of now. So I actually don't think that Dr. King would disagree with what you just said here, Tavis. But, God does work through us, through our actions,
no question.
right? And so in God bending the moral arc of the universe towards justice, he's doing it through the conscience of his people.
Well, no argument there. Speaking of a letter from Birmingham jail, again, I love how these dots connect on this program every day. For those of you listening yesterday, you know exactly where I'm going. John Wood Jr. was not here yesterday. Dr. Cornell West was here yesterday. And, John, you'll appreciate the fact that Dr. West put on his professor hat yesterday and gave the audience 2 assignments yesterday. The first assignment yesterday, after what happened in Alabama this weekend, the protest marches and the rallies there, Dr. King's assignment yesterday, if you weren't listening, you can still catch up. He assigned all of us yesterday to go back and read the letter from Birmingham jail.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Alabama, the first assignment was go back and read that letter. How many of y'all did that? I'm looking for a show of hands all across America right now. Let me see your hands. Raise your hand. Miles ain't got his hands up. Miles, I'm spanking your right hand during this next break. Read the letter from Birmingham jail. It ain't that long.
Give him an extension, Tavis.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm giving an extension, but I'm not grading on the curve. We are not grading on the curve. You have to read the thing, man. So read letter from Birmingham jail. That was Doc's assignment yesterday. Second assignment was then listen to Coltrane's Alabama. Read the letter from Birmingham jail and then listen to John Coltrane's Alabama. Those are the assignments yesterday. If you didn't get that done, I'll give you another 24 hours to get your homework done. Do your homework. Read the letter. Listen to Coltrane's Alabama. When we come forward, I want to go right to Malcolm one more again. I told you he's going to frame this whole hour and frame today's show for that matter. What Malcolm is saying in that clip we played is that the good white folk are making a mockery out of us. A mockery out of us, a mockery out of our vote, a mockery out of black politics, a mockery out of black aspiration. That's what I hear Malcolm saying in that clip. They're making a mockery of us. And again, It was true in 64 when Malcolm said it, and it's true in 2026. They are making now a mockery of us. They are slapping James Clyburn upside his 85-year-old head, and Benny Thompson, and they don't care. They are making a mockery. They are embarrassing and humiliating us, sorry, Brother Malcolm, by any means necessary. We'll pick up on the mockery piece when we come forward with John Wood Jr. on Tavis Smiley.
In a world full of noise, one voice cuts through. Tavis Smiley has never backed down from the hard questions, never shied away from speaking truth to power and to the powerless, and he's not about to start now. This is the show people talk about, the one your co-workers quote, the one that gets under your skin in the best way. Tavis Smiley, nationally syndicated, unapologetically progressive, unapologetically real.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A U.S. missionary doctor working in Africa has reportedly been diagnosed with Ebola as cases rise in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Dr. Kavita Patel.
The spread of Ebola is primarily person to person with contact of fluids, body fluids, secretions, saliva, etc. It does come with a high mortality rate, a high transmission rate.
The CDC says it's now deploying resources to contain the spread. A prison guard on duty when Jeffrey Epstein died says he received special treatment behind bars. Testifying before Congress, Tova Noel said Epstein had access to items other inmates didn't, as lawmakers continue to examine the circumstances surrounding his 2019 death. And Michael Jackson is back on top of the charts. His iconic album Thriller has returned to #1 on Billboard's top R&B hip-hop albums chart for the first time in over 40 years. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
PCH is open. Take the 101 freeway to Canaan Road. Malibu is open for business. Enjoy a scenic drive through the mountains and return to the beautiful beach. A beach day is always a better day. It's open and waiting for you.
Sponsored by Recreation Alliance.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
So I lied. I am grading on a curve, I guess, because I'm cheating, giving you some of Coltrane's Alabama, at least the beginning of it, just a taste of John Coltrane's Alabama. In case you've just tuned in, we were reminding the audience of their homework assignment yesterday, as handed out by the eminent professor, Dr. Cornel West, yesterday, asking us to read Letter from a Birmingham Jail and to listen to Coltrane's Alabama. So there's just a taste in the background of John Coltrane's Alabama, but I encourage you, after you read the letter, to then sit and listen to Coltrane. That is your assignment. I'm seeing messages and getting messages from many of you that you are doing your homework right now. Well, you can't do both, listen to that and listen to me, so which I go off, and then you can finish your homework assignment, because we got a great show on tap for you today. We have started in the first hour with our regular contributor, John Wood Jr., host of his own program called the Reconstruction Project, a longtime ambassador for Braver Angels, working on a pretty amazing book that I won't jump ahead of him on. Maybe he'll talk about it at the end of this conversation, but he's working on a book that I've been anxious to read. Can't wait till he gets it done and gets it out. Yes, but just an all-around brilliant guy. And I love arguing with him about our politics sometimes, but one thing we agree on is Dr. King. Yes, so that's always an easy conversation there. Today, though, in case you've just tuned in, is Malcolm's 101st birthday. Miles, I want to do this right now just because I'm just feeling it. I want some more Malcolm. Give me number 6. Tim, are you ready? I want to hear some more Malcolm before I jump into this question that I want to talk to John about. Malcolm, in the first clip we played, was really making the point that they are making a mockery out of us. They were making a mockery out of us in 1964 when I played the clip early in the show. Malcolm was talking in 64, the Ballad of the Bullet speech. Many of you know that speech. But Malcolm was essentially saying they're laughing at us. They're making a mockery of us. We'll talk about that part with John in a second here. But here's some more Malcolm on what would be his 101st birthday today.
Being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chopped in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise. It's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
Malcolm X was on it. The brother minister was on it. I've said 3 or 4 times already. His words from 64, his words in the 60s, that clip is from 1963. October of 63, Brother Malcolm was on it then because yesterday on this program, what did we talk about? We talked about these white liberals who are being eerily silent as we are under attack, under assault by the Supreme Court with regard to Voting Rights Act. Bernie Sanders ain't getting no major speech about this. And it's not just Bernie. There's a long list of them. AOC was, to her credit, in Alabama over the weekend at that rally. But so many of these white liberals, that's why Doc said yesterday, read the letter from Birmingham jail. You hear King in that letter going in on these so-called white moderates. It's the white man that is supposed to be our friend who acts friendly toward us. You see, I'm weaving Malcolm and Martin there together. You see what I'm doing here? That's what Martin is saying in that letter. They're acting friendly, but are they a true friend? Martin was saying, I'm more concerned about these so-called white Democrats, these white moderates, than I am about the Klan. That's what King is saying in that letter. We said it on this program yesterday. That here we are in a moment like this, and too many of our so-called white friends, these white liberals, Malcolm just referred to them as, are being quiet on the question of the Voting Rights Act and how we are taking it on the chin. I digress on that for now. The clip I played first, John Wood Jr., as I said already before, was Malcolm essentially making a point that we're being made a mockery of. And if anything about what he said was as real as rain then and today, it's that. I see them laughing in our face. I come back to the example of James Clyburn. We don't care that you're the lion of the Congressional Black Caucus. We don't care that you rose to be number 3 in leadership with Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. We don't care, Negro. We are going to take your seat away from you before the midterms. Your career is going to end ignominiously. That's how it's going to end, right? Because we're going to take the seat away from you. That's mockery, John.
Yeah, right. Well, Jim Clyburn is a distinguished figure in not just the history of our people, but just in the history of American politics in the modern age. Generally, he is somebody who you don't want to see a person like Jim Clyburn go out politically in that way. And this probably would not have been something that Republicans in South Carolina would have tried to do were it not for the fact that President Trump were cracking the whip behind them. You see, President Trump is declaring total political war is what I mean, in terms of the redrawing of the lines across the country. He's trying to build a base of political and I think personal power that, if he can manage it, will last for as long as he lasts. And it's going to come as a surprise to absolutely no one that he's not going to slow up in that project for the sake of Jim Clyburn, least of all to Jim Clyburn, I think. Yep. So there's no surprise there. I do think that this is where perhaps we get into sort of the nuances of the similarities and the differences here, because it's always important to see how history repeats itself, and it's also always important to engage with the complexities of the moment that you're in. The argument that Republicans and conservatives will make on the racial dynamic of the moves they're making, and by the way, I am a deep-seated opponent of gerrymandering in principle, as are most Americans, but the argument that they will make is that Jim Crow and the regime of oppression towards black people on the level of the vote that preceded it was distinct in the basis of the fact that it was eliminating the individual right to vote for black individuals across the country. But in this case, no black individual is losing the right to vote. Right? They're redrawing district lines, but that is a function of partisan interests. Democrats, even if it's in response to Trump, take Gavin Newsom here in the state of California, are redrawing district lines as well as a partisan matter to advantage their own side. Now, it just so happens to be the case that most black people are Democrats, and therefore black people come out on the losing end of that as a matter of partisan affiliation. But Republicans and conservatives will argue the fact that this is not a racial matter on that basis. Now, where I come down on that personally is in conceding that point as an important one, but also observing the fact that in the history of the movement, while the individual right to vote was always a vital one in the interests of our people, in the interests of equality broadly speaking, I think that there's a long history in this country and in the black context, but not only the black context, that acknowledges the fact that the voices of communities matter, right? Mm-hmm. And so the holistic voice of the black community matters, as well as the representation of black communities, as opposed to merely the enfranchisement of black individuals. And you will have conservatives say, well, wait a second, that's not enshrined in the Constitution. I would respond by saying, well, in a way, it absolutely is enshrined in the Constitution. The reason we have a bicameral legislature where you have a Senate where Rhode Island gets the same 2 senatorial votes as the great state of California gets, a far bigger place, is to enfranchise the right of the state of Rhode Island as a community, as opposed to just a collection of individuals. And so you may say race is different from geography, but the point is that conservatism is supposed to honor the bonds of local community on the basis of cultural similarities. So that's a philosophical challenge I put to my conservative friends. But the thing that black folks may have to reckon with on the other side is the practical sort of impact of orienting our congressional representation strategies around the holistic composition of black communities, such as Jim Clyburn's district in South Carolina, when that can and often does have the effect of drawing black votes away from other districts where in this case, democratic multicultural coalitions might be able to more effectively advance the interests of black people politically, especially if you're looking at it from a liberal democratic point of view. And I'm not a Democrat, but I think that this argument should be taken into account. By taking all of those votes and putting them in one district represented by James Clyburn, you could argue that it weakened the Democratic Party across the state of South Carolina, putting Republicans in a position to eventually do this in the first place. And so there's a lot of complexity in 2026 that we got to reckon with, even while the frames of Malcolm and Martin are still relevant to the overall equation.
John is pushing me directly toward an article that the New York Times wrote that a lot of folks have been talking about. Many people have sent me this article. Of course, I read it when it came out a couple of days ago, but we'll let John just unpack a bit of what he saw in this article. I asked him, did he read it? He did. The headline simply says this: why neutral maps could empower black voters as much as the Voting Rights Act. Now, that ain't the frame we've been on this program for the most part. But that's what the New York Times says. Why neutral maps could empower black voters as much as the Voting Rights Act. Their simulations debunk the notion that the act created artificial minority districts that wouldn't otherwise exist. So there's some of, in this article, what John was just opining about a moment ago. We'll come straight to that. I ain't got yet to Donald Trump announcing today that he's admitting 10,000 more white South Africans as refugees at a cost of $100 million. That's what we need in America right now, more white folk. And so he's letting 10,000 of them in from South Africa. We talked briefly yesterday at the end of our show with Dr. Corte about the DOJ setting up this $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund for Trump's friends. We'll get to that. And, of course, today is primary day in Alabama, Pennsylvania, Oregon, Georgia, Kentucky. We'll get to primary day with Galen Druke, top of the second hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Every day, somebody somewhere is trying to silence the truth. Not on this show. For over 3 decades now, Tavis Smiley has been bringing you the conversations that matter, the voices that challenge, the ideas that move us forward, from the halls of power to the heart of the community. Tavis covers it all. Real talk in real time. This is Tavis Smiley.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. My time is getting tight. I referenced this New York Times article that a lot of you have been reading and sending to me and talking about that suggests that neutral maps, which is what the Supreme Court ultimately said they were chasing. I don't believe it. You don't believe it. They were going after what they call racial gerrymandering. But these neutral maps could, John, empower black voters as much as the Voting Rights Act did. That's in part what you were saying a moment ago about the damage that drawing these black districts may have done, setting up this particular frame that we're in now.
Yeah, right. And so part of the history that I've gotten caught up on here recently, I mean, just to take South Carolina as an example, but I'm sure there are other ones, is that basically the Black Caucus in the state of South Carolina years ago came to an agreement with Republicans in the state legislature who are redrawing the map in a way that overall would favor Republican electoral interest, but would secure the representation of the black community in one district. And that became the district of Jim Clyburn in any event. So that's water under the bridge. But honestly, I would love to believe that those simulations are accurate that you just described from the New York Times, because what it means is that by doing what in principle I think we should be doing anyway, and that I think is really sort of the preference of Americans across color and partisan lines, drawing district lines in ways that are geographically rational will tend to overlap with coherent demographic composition anyway, right? So in most places, you're not going to have to go wildly out of your way to bring black people into the same area of congressional representation, because black people are going to tend to be concentrated towards similar geographic centers anyway, right? Yeah. And so if you could do that in a way that still maintained proportional black representation, and for that of other communities as well, while simultaneously taking the racial dynamic out of the political equation, I think it's much better for America in the long run without sacrificing black political power.
My quick critique of that article was that simulation ain't reality. Number one. Well, and so I that's number one. Number two, I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I'm like you. I want to believe, but I recognize that simulation ain't reality. And third, and most importantly, most of these districts are still in the South, in the former Confederate states. Right. So you have to believe then that while black folk can be ushered into certain districts with redrawing of lines, you got to believe then that the white folk in these southern former Confederate states would vote for a black candidate. I'm not sure I believe that either. So that's my critique right quick.
Yeah, you got white folk and you got white folk. Yeah. Some will and some won't, right? And part of the argument that, and again, I'm making this to my Democratic brothers and sisters, right? As a Republican myself, and yet the as a Republican who's deeply critical of Trump's Republican Party. Sure. I'll also say that. But the argument that the New York Times was making is that basically by distributing black votes, more broadly speaking, black voters still, because they're the indispensable base of the Democratic Party, still wind up maintaining in these simulations basically decisive advantage in the Democratic primaries, which then basically determines the general election outcome in Democratic-leaning districts. And so that's how the mechanics of that break out, and it does sound plausible on the face of it.
Yep. Plausible but not persuasive.
Okay.
at least not at this moment. Plausible but not persuasive. Our remaining moments with John Wood Jr. Speaking of white folk, Donald Trump wants to let 10,000 more white South African Afrikaners in this country. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Who's sitting across from Tavis this week? Leaders, legends, game changers. The people shaping the country and the culture. They come to Tavis Smiley because this is where the real conversations happen. No spin, no fluff, just straight talk and straight answers. Tavis Smiley, because the Kingian question, where do we go from here, starts right here.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and John Wood Jr. for a little less than 3 minutes here. Let's try to squeeze out 2 things that you can top line, at least, John, in the time we have. So DOJ has set up this $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, as they're calling it, after Trump dropped his $10 billion lawsuit against his IRS. This ain't nothing but a fraudulent slush fund, as far as I'm concerned, John.
This is one of my favorite cynical stories of all time, let me tell you, because I think that they realize that why sue a government that I control when I could just reallocate the funds and distribute it directly
to my friends.
Right, exactly. So, I don't think I got anything more to say about that. Folks could make of that what you will.
Enough said. Why sue my? I control this money. I ain't got to sue them. I'll just tell them to set up a $1.8 billion slush fund that I can use to support my friends.
This is the laughter to keep from crying.
Yes, I declare. Last issue here in 90 seconds. Trump has announced he's going to bring 10,000 more Afrikaners, white South Africans, as refugees in his country. He calls it an emergency refugee situation, and somehow he found $100 million, speaking of controlling the purse, $100 million to get these good white folk here, John.
Yeah, right. Well, I think it's cynical insofar as I think that the president is appealing to a part of his coalition that, believes that white people are oppressed in America and throughout the world and so forth. And so there's a way in which this is just sort of, just what would you say, identity politics, reverse identity politics, or whatever. That's not to say that I think that there's nothing to be concerned about in terms of the treatment of white South Africans in South Africa, nothing comparable to the days of Mandela going the other way. But, I say this is somebody with the great deal of love for South Africa. My brother married a South African woman. We've got folks way up in the northern province of Limpopo there. So shout out to my brother Evan. Shout out to his wife's family, Ella. Shout out to my mama and my grandma, by the way, who are listening to the Tavis Smiley show. And very proud that I'm out here having this conversation with you. Love you, Grandma, and love all our family in South Africa as well.
No complaints to me shouting out family. I got 30 seconds here very quick. Trump's revenge tour continues today. He took out Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. Can he take out Massey in Kentucky today?
I hope not. Yeah. I hope not, because Massey is a man of integrity, and he's got a strong following because he's so independent-minded. Libertarians, they stick together, the Ron Paul kind of folks, you know. But I don't know. It's going to be a fight for his political life.
We'll talk about these primaries and Trump's poll numbers at the top of the second hour when Galen Druke of GD Politics joins us. For now, we thank John Wood Jr., National Ambassador for Braver Angels, host of his own program called the Reconstruction Project. And next time he's on, we'll talk about that book, I promise you. John, for now, thank you for your time. Though.
Yes, sir.
And for your insights. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A U.S. missionary doctor working in Africa has reportedly been diagnosed with Ebola as cases rise in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Dr. Kavita Patel.
The spread of Ebola is primarily person to person with contact of fluids, body fluids, secretions, saliva, etc. It does come with a high mortality rate, a high transmission rate.
The CDC says it's now deploying resources to contain the spread. A prison guard on duty when Jeffrey Epstein died says he received special treatment behind bars. Testifying before Congress, Tova Noel said Epstein had access to items other inmates didn't, as lawmakers continue to examine the circumstances surrounding his 2019 death. And Michael Jackson is back on top of the charts. His iconic album Thriller has returned to #1 on Billboard's top R&B hip-hop albums chart for the first time in over 40 years. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The laughs keep coming when Bert Kreischer hits Fantasy Springs Resort Casino May 22nd. Big energy, big comedy, one wild night. Get tickets now at FantasySpringsResort.com. That's FantasySpringsResort.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive. Keep on. Never say
This is what happens when you have a sharp and smart aleck board op named Miles. When you have a smart aleck board op like Miles, this is what you get. Miles heard me say in the first hour, I'm not an optimist. I am an eternal prisoner of hope. I am not an optimist. I am an eternal prisoner of hope. So what do I get top of the second hour? He plays optimistic by Sounds of Blackness. That's just Miles messing with me. I ain't mad at him. This is why the board op always gets the last word, because he controls all the buttons, right? I just got a microphone, and I don't even control it. Miles can shut me up at any time. He can just kill my mic. And so always be nice to your board ops. But anyway, Miles being funny. I ain't an optimist, and he plays optimistic. Okay. Anyway, in this hour, two conversations as promised. On the B side, we'll talk to the Bishop William J. Barber II about the rally held yesterday outside the White House. We commenced this hour, and I'm glad to have him back. As a matter of fact, Galen, you'll be happy to know that I said to my people the other day, where is Galen Druke? I need Galen. So I came in search of you, man. This ain't just something that happened. I went looking for you, and I'm glad we found you. He is Galen Druke of GD Politics. I have him on for a couple of things to unpack Trump's historically low approval numbers. How Trump took out Bill Cassidy the other day in Louisiana, how he may take out Tom Massey today in Kentucky. And this question I keep asking, when will Trump be so weakened, so unpopular that Republicans won't be afraid of him? We ain't quite there yet. Galen Druke, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you back, and great to hear your voice. And again, I always appreciate your deep insights, your political insights. One of the best in the business. I'm always delighted to be in conversation with Galen Druke. Let me just start with these poll numbers. I was on the air yesterday when this story broke about these historically low numbers. I don't need to color this much more than this for you. You are the expert. Talk to me about what these approval numbers, this approval ratings sinking. What's this mean, Galen?
Yeah, I think the most recent poll that got everyone's attention is the New York Times poll that came out on Monday, showing Trump with a 37% approval rating and 60% of Americans disapproving of the job that he's doing. And that adds to a chorus of polls, really. I mean, we suggest that folks should look at an average of the polls, not just look at one individual poll that can be liable to get it wrong or be an outlier or whatnot. But this adds to a chorus of polls that show that Trump has sunk to at least his lowest numbers in his second term, if not his lowest numbers overall. So you look across the different places on the internet where you can find polling averages, and Trump is about 22 percentage points underwater. That means many more Americans disapprove of the job that he's doing than approve of the job that he's doing. And to put that in perspective, he is now, if you compare going back to, Dwight Eisenhower, to the beginning of the modern polling era, he is doing worse than any president has done at this point in their term. And if you look at the New York Times polling average over the past 17 years, which is all of the data that they look at, no president has been under a 38% approval rating for more than a couple days. Trump has now been under a 38% approval rating on their tracker for, I believe, more than a week. So Trump is unpopular, but he's not just unpopular. He's historically unpopular.
And yet that historic unpopularity seems at this point not to have, I repeat, not to have weakened him so much that Republicans ain't scared of him.
Yeah, I think that's an important caveat, although it's not absolute. So some new polling came out from the New York Times today showing that about a third of Republicans say they would like to move in a new direction as opposed to follow Trump's lead, which is significant. I mean, he's had a pretty tight grasp on the party for going on a decade now, or more than a decade, really. And so, looking back at his first term, regularly he had an approval rating of like 90% with Republicans. Now it's closer to 70%, which is, it's not 50%, it's not zero, but it's not as high as it used to be. So I'll just caveat that a little. I'll also say that we're talking about Republican primaries here, the race that Bill Cassidy lost, the senator in Louisiana, also Thomas Massey, the incumbent representative from Kentucky's 4th district. these primaries are small affairs. Not that many people vote in them, and certainly not the kind of electorate that's going to turn out in a general election. It's generally people who are very partisan, very much believe in their party's project, whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and believe in, their political leaders. Somebody who's, like cynical and annoyed with the cost of living and is sort of more reactive to the actual circumstances on the ground. I mean by that, less ideological. Like somebody who is through and through Republican is the kind of person who is turning up in these races.
Yeah.
And in some ways, of course, they're going to follow the leader of their party. Like these are the kind of people who still supported Joe Biden in the waning sort of hours of his presidency when he was also quite unpopular. A lot of the party had turned against him, but there were still some true believers. So it's like that kind of voter is the kind of person who's showing up in these primary races. And yeah, Trump still has a lot of sway with those folks.
Yep. Here's Donald Trump from the Oval Office, no less. Talk about playing politics in the actual Oval Office. Here's Donald Trump yesterday on Tom Massey in Kentucky, who was in that primary today. Trump wants his head. When we come forward, we'll let Galen Druke talk about it, unpack it for you. But here's Donald Trump yesterday.
I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massey. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. He is so bad. Got an election coming up. He's running against a great guy, a great patriot, Ed Gilrain. He's fantastic. But forget that. Massey's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting against Republicans and good values. So get rid of Thomas Massey.
From the Mert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet, without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime, plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows, and an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want and skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at Philo.tv.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Galen Druke, host of the nonpartisan podcast GD Politics. I said to Galen earlier that I asked my people the other day to find Galen for me. I wanted to hear his insights about these numbers, about these primaries today. We'll get to the primaries here in just a second. It is primary day in Alabama, in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Oregon. Speaking of Kentucky, yesterday Donald Trump in the Oval Office went after Tom Massey. I played this a moment ago, but in case you just tuned in, didn't hear it, a short soundbite from the president going after Tom Massey. We'll let Galen Druke respond.
I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massey. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. He is so bad. Got an election coming up. He's running against a great guy, a great patriot, Ed Gilrain. He's fantastic. But forget that. Massey's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting against Republicans and good values. So get rid of Thomas Massey.
So I'm thinking, Galen, every time I hear that clip, of all the congresspersons just in my lifetime, in the House, in the Senate, members of Congress, who have been expelled, for that matter, not just by the voters, but indeed by their colleagues, for doing some pretty egregious things. But Donald Trump lays in on the fact that Massey is the worst congressman in the history of the republic. Talk about putting a target on somebody. Trump almost has to win this fight against Massey. Massey has to lose today, it seems to me, for Trump to have any credibility, because he went after him so hard, Galen.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. I want to say, just as a point of comparison, so we were just talking about Bill Cassidy's loss in Louisiana over the weekend. He got just 25% of the primary vote. That's pretty bad.
Right.
Looking at the early polling in Kentucky's 4th congressional district, where Thomas Massey is, it's been pretty close. Now, you know, House primary polling is not all that reliable. It's some of the most uncertain circumstances in which to try to conduct a poll of any of the races that get run in the United States. But there have been polls that show Massey up. There have been polls that show his opponent up. And so this is already a significantly closer race. It is, according to Ad Impact, the most expensive House primary in the history of the country. $25 million has been spent on advertising. If you add in all campaign expenses, it looks more like $35 million. So already Trump has had to put up a pretty big fight to try to take Thomas Massey down. He's been in office in that district since 2012. So the Kentuckians in the 4th congressional district know him pretty well. And he's not, you know, a lot of the people who buck Trump would say, buck him after January 6th and say that he's a threat to democracy. Folks like Liz Cheney, to some extent, folks like Bill Cassidy, and others. Thomas Massey is a little bit different. He identifies as more of a libertarian type. And, you know, we listened to a quote from Trump earlier. I want to read a quote from Thomas Massey himself, sort of responding to the accusation that he's always voting against Trump. He said, quote, "I vote with the president 91% of the time. The 9% of the time, my party is taking up for pedophiles, bankrupting this country, or starting another war." So he has criticized Trump pretty harshly for not releasing the Epstein files, for military intervention twice in Iran and once in Venezuela. And on top of that, he did not support the big, beautiful bill for debt and deficit reasons. And so, you know, he's somebody who sort of sticks to his guns, not necessarily on the liberal democracy critiques of Trump, but more on the ideological, like, capital C conservative critiques of Trump.
Yep. What's your gut tell you about whether he becomes the new Liz Cheney, the new Bill Cassidy?
Oh, boy. You know, my crystal ball has been broken for going on a decade now, but if I had to guess, I would say, you know, if past his prologue, if history is any indication, he probably loses, but I'm still curious about how close it's going to be. You know, this is a really rough moment for Trump to put his, you know, himself on the line in this way. We talked about some of the ways that Trump is unpopular in this moment. The main way in which he's unpopular is inflation and the cost of living. And people are pretty frustrated with the war in Iran. Even if you ask just Republicans, it's something like 40% of them either don't know or say that the war in Iran has not been worth it. And so even amongst the people who are voting in a primary like this, there's some skepticism about the direction that Trump has gone in that aligns with some of Thomas Massey's critiques of Trump.
Yeah. Let me ask this question. There may be nothing here, but I'm curious about it, given the way my mind works. I believe that something happens to voters, and I'm not sure what that thing is, but I think something happens to voters when they know that they are the object of the national gaze. Everybody, to your point about the money, you see where I'm going here, Galen. Everybody's watching this race. Donald Trump, as you heard in that clip, is putting himself on the line to take out Tom Massey today. He's feeling himself, as we say, because he just took out Cassidy in Louisiana. But I think something happens to the psyche of the voter when they know that the spotlight is on them, that they are in the national news cycle. I don't know if that pushes him in one direction or the other, but something has to happen when you got all this media that's descended on this district, everybody's watching this one congressional race. What's your sense? I'm doing some pop psychology here, but you have any thoughts about what happens to the psyche of a voter who's in that situation when you know that the whole nation is watching this little district?
Yeah, Tavis, your intuition is empirically true. When we look at battleground states, for example, in presidential elections, we see, of course, there are more ad dollars spent there. The candidates spend more time there. The media follows. But also, there are higher turnout rates in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, in highly competitive races that we've seen in Arizona and Georgia. We've seen record-breaking turnout there as well. And so it is true that voters know when their vote matters. Right. And in states like California, where people feel like, it doesn't really matter, it's such a blue state, or wherever, there's lower turnout. And so it is true that voters weigh how much of an impact they will end up having. Now, in an electorate, a high turnout electorate, historically, we used to think, well, that's good for Democrats because Democrats were representing the marginal voter, the person who feels sort of maybe alienated by mainstream politics. And if you can get them to the polls, they'll vote for Democrats. That has switched in the Trump era to the point where the marginal voters are oftentimes more interested in what Trump has to say. Trump has been anti-establishment. He's floated conspiracy theories and ideas that are maybe more popular amongst people who don't vote regularly, which is to say a feeling that no matter what I do, politics is corrupt and it doesn't matter whether or not I vote. And somebody like that is going to drive out a more marginal voter. Now, in this particular primary, it's hard to say how this nets out. My intuition is that the higher the turnout, the better it is for the Trump-backed candidate. Because, again, looking at the numbers overall, Trump still has, 70% plus approval with self-identified Republicans who are going to be the people voting in this primary. If this was a low turnout affair, not a lot of people voting, just the people who maybe really like Thomas Massey or really paying attention to, cable news or whatever might tune in, or people who have heard Lauren Boebert there campaigning for him this weekend or something like that. But if Trump is able to reach, it sounds like he was recording a social media clip, what you played earlier. If he's able to reach, the more generic Republican, I think he's likelier to unseat Massey. So that's my intuition. And yes, your intuition about if voters change their behavior when everyone tunes in to how they're behaving, indeed they do. Yep.
Let me ask you, with regard to these other primary states, Alabama, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Oregon, we've been talking about Kentucky. We obviously, many of us in this audience are keeping our eye on the Georgia primary. Keisha Lance Bottoms, former black woman mayor of Atlanta, running to be governor in Georgia. Not unlike Stacey Abrams, who tried that a couple times some years ago. But people are watching that particular race. There are a number of African Americans I point out on this program the other day. You cover this stuff every day. I think, unless I'm missing something, we are in a moment where there is a record number of black people running for and or already in the governor's seat. Wes Moore is already there, of course, in Maryland, but in Michigan, in Florida, in Wisconsin, in Georgia, here in California, a couple other places, there are a number of African Americans in particular running for the highest office in their state. I think that's a record number right about now. Somebody check me on the data on that, but I know there's a significant number. I don't recall a year ever there were this many black people running to be the chief executive of a state. So we're watching Georgia. I'm raising that only because I'm just curious whether or not there are things in particular that you're watching in other states.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important point what you're saying about African-American candidates for statewide office. There's a lot of conversation right now about Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and whether southern states in particular have to create majority-minority districts in order to help black voters elect the candidates of their choice, get them to Washington, etc. Some of those districts being dismantled. Now, even though we have seen a proliferation of representation of black Americans in the House, we have not seen a similar proliferation of black Americans winning statewide office. It's been a lot harder for folks to win, Senate seats and governor seats. And so I think a lot of people will be paying attention, especially as maybe some of those congressional seats get whittled away at. Are we going to see more black candidates running for statewide office? Of course, Keisha Lance Bottoms is one example. I think, she is very likely to place first in the Democratic primary tonight. It could still go to a runoff, but I think the general belief is that even if it goes to a runoff, she will win. And then she'll be up against, who knows? The lieutenant governor is currently running on the Republican side. The attorney general is running. There's a billionaire in there. And so it will be a tough fight. It is still very much a purple state. But one important sort of nuance of the race this fall is that Senator Jon Ossoff is running for re-election. And if you look at the early polling right now, it looks like his race is not going to be all that competitive. Like, no matter who Republicans nominate to go against him, it looks like he's probably going to win. And so in an environment where, there's a backlash against Trump, there's a strong candidate running on the Senate side, this probably looks like, maybe potentially a more optimistic case for Keisha Lance Bottoms this time around than, of course, Stacey Abrams had difficulty winning that seat in the past. So that is definitely a race to watch, and there's a couple different dynamics that I'm looking at there. Yeah. In terms of other primaries, there are several in Pennsylvania, but, we're talking a little bit about statewide office, but of course, maybe the most vulnerable chamber for Republicans this fall is the House. If you look at, the forecasts and betting markets right now, folks suggest that there's something like a 75% chance that Democrats win the House from Republicans, and some of that runs through Pennsylvania. There are at least 3 or 4 House districts currently held by Republicans, some flipped in the last election in 2024, that Democrats are very aggressively trying to win back.
Yep. All things considered, is this going to be another good night for Democrats? And I say another good night because, as you know, in all these primaries, the storyline, I think consistently, it's been rather linear so far. Democrats keep putting points on the scoreboard, or put another way, keep doing well enough in these races, whether they're special elections or primaries. They've done well enough to keep that narrative going that they got a really good shot of winning back the House. It's going to be a good night for Democrats?
It'll be interesting to assess that because this is more of a primary night, so It's not going to be Republicans versus Democrats per se. But one thing that folks will be watching is, as we go through this primary cycle, Democrats say in polls that they're more excited to vote this fall than Republicans say that they're excited to vote this fall. Sometimes when that happens, you see a lot more Democrats turning out in primaries than Republicans. That isn't a surefire way to predict the outcome of the midterms, but it's one trend to watch. So even if Republicans and Democrats are not competing directly against each other tonight, we can still look at turnout overall to see if Democrats, in polls they say they're more enthusiastic, when it actually comes time to vote, are they turning out in higher numbers? So we'll have to get back to you on that.
I got 30 seconds left here. I offer this as the exit question. Every second-term president at some point, gets considered to be a lame duck. Donald Trump is extending that narrative at the moment. And yet there will come a time at some point, I think, where he will be so far in or so weakened, I close where I start, that they won't be so afraid of him. They won't be so afraid to be independent. We're, again, not quite there yet. When will we know when will we know we're there, Galen?
No, look, I think if he gets down to the 20s in terms of approval, like George W. Bush did after the Iraq War, Hurricane Katrina, and the financial crisis, I think we'll know that we're there. But I would watch the people who want to be president on the Republican side in 2028. Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance in particular. I think for now, they all still want his endorsement because they believe that whoever he endorses is going to win the Republican primary. So maybe we'll have to wait until after the Republican primary when they're in a general election in 2028. Maybe that's when they'll buck Trump. Who knows? But I'm watching as well because the Republican Party's relationship with Trump has been quite a unique one over the past decade.
Yep. 28, that's 2 years from now. Lord have mercy. That's a long time to wait. But Galen knows what he's talking about. He is the host of the nonpartisan podcast, GD Politics. Galen, as always, thanks for your insights, man. Good to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says more prescription drugs are being added to the Trump RX website.
So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Speaking at the White House event, he said the expansion will significantly increase discounted medications and could save Americans hundreds of billions in costs. Memphis police say a bomb threat forced an evacuation at the National Civil Rights Museum over the weekend. The facility was cleared as a precaution while authorities searched the area. No explosives were found, and the incident came the same day the museum unveiled its new legacy experience. And Kanye West's planned concert in India has been canceled after a series of European show disruptions. Organizers say the New Delhi event set for May 23rd was called off due to security concerns. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up!
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up. You have trouble sleeping. Maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8935. 800-575-8935. That's 800-575-8935.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
When black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
We've been playing some audio, some of the best of the brother minister Malcolm X, because today would have been his 101st birthday. And so we've been weaving in some sound of the brother minister all throughout today's program. I told you an hour and a half ago I was going to use Malcolm's brilliance, his eloquence, to frame this entire show today. And so in so many ways, the clips we've been playing from Brother Malcolm have weaved rather nicely into today's dialogue. I am pleased, speaking of dialogue, to welcome back to this program the President and Senior Lecturer of Repairers of the Breach and Moral Mondays, running his own institute now at Yale University. He is our friend and brother, Bishop William J. Barber II. I told you yesterday on the Monday program that there was a big rally on the National Mall called Rededicate 250. A big gathering on the National Mall, a White House-backed event at which Trump spoke via satellite, billed as One Nation Under God. It was criticizing the blurring of lines between the church and state, but connecting all these dots between Christianity as we have known it and the history of this country. Mostly the good white people were gathered at this rally on Sunday. Again, Vance spoke, Trump spoke, a bunch of folks spoke on Sunday. But then yesterday, outside the White House, there was another rally. But this one was led by, again, our friend and brother, Bishop William J. Barber II. Bishop, I start by asking, top of mind, what was the difference in these two rallies?
Well, Tavis, one thing, like Malcolm said, we were thinking like black folk. We were thinking like two people of faith.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking like idolaters and blasphemers and people who are simply trying to engage in Trump religion and suggest that that is Christian religion, which is not. We stepped into the street at 5 o'clock during rush hour happens. Clergy. We had asked 12,000 clergy to put this on their platforms. We live stream across the world. We preached in the public square, and we are declaring, we've been doing this for 9 weeks, that we're going to turn 8th Street right in front of the White House into a public pulpit. Publicly, I want you to come preach one Monday. I want Cornell to come. We've got to do what Jeremiah 22 said. Go down to the king's house.
Oh yeah.
And we stop traffic. And we were not there in the street because a week earlier somebody put up a gold statue of somebody like the Don Colossus that Mark Burns put up, which is nothing but a modern-day Nebuchadnezzar image, asking people to bow down to it. Number two, notice they said one nation under God, not with liberty and justice for all. Number three, notice that they said that it took 250 years for God to raise up a man who would build a ballroom. But we were talking about how God raises up prophets to challenge injustice, to challenge the mistreatment of the poor, the mistreatment of the immigrant. We were talking about MAGA madness, and we say that MAGA means not make America great again, but mean, angry, greedy, anti-faith, anti-American attitudes. We had preachers, Seventh-day Adventists, Disciples of Christ, United Church of Christ, preaching. My own wife, Reverend Dr. Della Owens Barber, she said, how can you call anything a rededication and you haven't repented for all of the things that were done in this country the first 250 years that were anti-Christ?
That's right.
Another sister said that we will not sit by Reverend Dr. Hannah Broome, who's our national leader, and watch our religion be used to dispose people. That religion is not supposed to be used to dispose people. Reverend Jackson said there's madness going on, and he listed the madness when you will drop bombs and kill babies, girls in a school in Iran, but but then claim you can't even find money for preschool here in America. And over again, one young man that was there, and your audience was up, he said that when Trump tried to read Chronicles 7:14, what he didn't realize was he was reading his own condemnation. Because 7:14 says, if my people who call by name will humble themselves, he's not humble, pray, he doesn't pray, and turn from their wicked ways, then God will heal the nation. But if you keep reading, it also says what will happen if you don't
That's
pray.
right. That's
if
right.
you're not humble and you don't turn from wickedness. And then lastly, Tavis, I did a piece yesterday on saying anybody that claims to be holding a religious event that doesn't deal with policy violence, doesn't deal with how the poor are faring, how the sick are faring, they are not engaging in the religion or the Christianity of Jesus Christ. It is falsehood. It is heresy. In fact, the scriptures call it wicked, because the word wicked in Hebrew, rasha, is what it's in Hebrew, literally means wickedness is any excuse to exploit. When you use excuses to exploit the vulnerable, when you refuse to repent, and when you put yourself up as God's figure, that's wicked.
Yeah. Yep. No, we, as you know, we call it Second Chronicles because Donald Trump is uninitiated. He's uninitiated and unchurched. He calls it 2 Chronicles. But either way, either way, that's right. He's reading from 2 Chronicles, and what he's reading, to your brilliant point, your eloquent point, is a condemnation of himself. When you read in that particular scripture, everything in there that God calls on us to do, he's doing the exact opposite. So it really is an indictment of himself as he reads that scripture. And I love, again, Reverend Barber's phrase, policy violence. We should use that more often. That's what this is. It's policy violence So I want to underscore that phraseology for those of you listening to start to use that more. What we are experiencing, what we're being exposed to, subjected to is policy violence. Let me set the frame right quick. When we come forward, I want you to respond to this. I'll give you some time in a second here. But we talked on this program yesterday. Dr. West, you mentioned earlier, Cornell was here yesterday, and we were talking about the rally in Alabama over the weekend. Cory Booker at that rally used the phrase a civic altar call. This is a civic altar call. Doc and I talked about it. He understood where Cory was coming from. Doc had his own critique. That's not the point. But Cory's phraseology was this moment is a moment for a civic altar call. And here you come using the phraseology of this public pulpit that somebody needs to stand to, as you did and others outside the White House, and speak truth to power, and for that matter, to the powerless. So the language is public pulpit, civic altar call. We'll let Bishop Barber connect those two things up. And here's my simple question. When we get done speaking at the public pulpit, and then we have the civic altar call, and these folk come to the altar, what are we saying to them, Doc, at the altar? What are we saying to them when they get to the altar? That's the question for the bishop when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Bishop William J. Barber II, who led a huge rally outside the White House on Monday. So Bishop used the phraseology earlier of a public pulpit. Cory Booker says this is a moment for a civic altar call. Dr. West's critique of Cory yesterday was, I'm all for a civic altar call, but only if you get folk in the church. And these folk ain't in the church. You can't have no altar call if they ain't inside the building. So once we get them to the altar in this civic altar call, after you preach at the public pulpit, what are we saying to them when they come to the altar for repentance?
Well, first of all, we got to make sure folk come to the altar for repentance. Now, I'm going to say some things that we just have to believe, I believe have to be said. We do need a public altar call, a civic altar call, I think in some way. I like that imagery, and this public pulpit. But when we get there, the first move has to be repentance. And I see that everybody's talking about Trump. But one thing we have to say is we are sorry that it took us 13 years. If we don't own that, Tavis, like, yes, we had a big day in Montgomery. I sent people there, hundreds of people, text thousands, sent buses and all. But we also have to say when we have events like this, y'all, we messed up. The Voting Rights Act was gutted in 2013. We've been going down to Selma since then, and it's after they beat us that we then decide we need to retrace the steps. So first there's got to be some serious repentance. Every politician that did not push the fix of the Voting Rights Act through.
That's right.
Has to admit it. See, because you only have credibility to go to the next step if you first repent. Like Isaiah said, I live in the midst of people unclean lips, and I'm a man of unclean lips. Secondly, we have to, at that civic, agree that we are not going to say to politicians, all you have to do is tell us that you're against Trump and we're going to vote for you. That's not enough. That's normal. What we need now is, what is your vision?
That's right.
What will happen in the first 50 days if you are given the majority? What will happen with living wage? What will happen with a new Voting Rights Act? What will happen with universal health care? What will happen? Don't just run talking about you against Trump. We got that. But what people need to understand is what the vision is. And then thirdly, we have to, what Malcolm said, own our own power. We got to own our power. And part of that is recognizing that when you have massive voter suppression, we don't need to be just talking about turning out for a midterm. We need to be saying a midterm is the beginning. It's only a beginning for those politicians that will clearly say what they're for, not just what they're against. And it has to be because we're committed to a 10-year massive turnout. We cannot be in this democracy and own our power when 40 to 50, sometimes 60% of our own people are staying home. 21% of black men voted for Trump and for MAGA. The only place we can expand the power to vote right now is with poor, low-wage, infrequent voters. 19 million of them, Tavis, that voted for Biden-Harris when Biden did talk about they didn't get it done, living wages and fixing the Voting Rights Act. 19 million of them stayed home, and the number one reason they stayed home, according to a recent study by Celinda Lake and others, was that nobody gave them and talked to them about a clear economic vision that would lift from the bottom, not just lift from the middle. So we've got all this power. The Congress we have now, Tavis, is because of only 7,000 votes when 90 million people stayed home. We have to own this power and wield this power around a vision. And I'm saying to folks, sometimes we heard everybody, I think the other day, we need voter registration, but actually that's not what we need. The truth of the matter is we have enough people registered. The problem is we're not mobilizing them. And the reason they're not being mobilized is because they're not hearing a clear vision. They're hearing normalcy. Folk want to just go back to what was normal, just like before Trump. But that's not good enough.
Registration is one thing, and you got to start there. But mobilization is something else, and that's what we need right now. Less registration, more mobilization. I digress for now. The remaining moments with William Barber when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass, and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
I got a little less than 3 minutes, and I will yield the balance of my time to the President and Senior Lecturer of Repairs of the Breach and Moral Monies, Bishop William J. Barber. You made the point. Registration is one thing. Mobilization is another thing. How do we mobilize, Bishop? It's all yours.
Thank you, Tavis. And let me just say about what just getting in the church. Being in the church at this altar means you're really serious about fundamental change, not just riding the coattail of anger against Trump and vote for me because I'm a Democrat and I get elected, but no commitment to change. I want to say that. Number two, in times in which we live, take for instance North Carolina. North Carolina has about 20 days of early voting, same-day registration. We don't have to now register people before the election and then get them to the polls. We have to, in that state, what you want to build is a massive same-day registration, march, and mobilization to the polls. People can do it all in one move. They don't have to take off their jobs, so forth and so on. And we've got to look at each state based on the laws in that state and engage micro-based massive mobilization. And we need to build it now for a 10-year battle. Because what we really have to get, we want to overcome all this voter suppression, is to have lines around the polling places with people committed to stay there. And we won't get that unless politicians go, as Cornel West said, and get in the church and truly present a vision of transformation. And then when they get the majority, act in the first 50 days. Because the danger is, last thing, if folk get in office this time and get a majority, and as soon as they get in office, they start backing up and saying what they can't do and what they have to compromise, we may never get the people back again.
Yeah.
The people need to see a vision and acted upon, and we must vote in the kind of numbers that demand that vision be acted upon.
Yeah. Bishop, all I can say is stay on the wall, man. Stay on the wall. He is the Bishop William J. Barber II, President, Senior Lecturer, Repairs of the Breach, Moral Mondays, running his own institute these days at Yale, but mostly out in these streets doing his work and his witness. And I'm always honored when you can take a few minutes just to talk to us about that work and witness, which we celebrate and support in every way we can. Bishop, thanks for your time, man. You stay strong.
Thank you always. I'm gonna see you in DC and let you preach one day tomorrow Monday.
Man, I got your back anytime you need me, man. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says more prescription drugs are being added to the Trump RX website.
So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Speaking at the White House event, he said the expansion will significantly increase discounted medications and could save Americans hundreds of billions in costs. Memphis police say a bomb threat forced an evacuation at the National Civil Rights Museum over the weekend. The facility was cleared as a precaution while authorities searched the area. No explosives were found, and the incident came the same day the museum unveiled its new legacy experience. And Kanye West's planned concert in India has been canceled after a series of European show disruptions. Organizers say the New Delhi event set for May 23rd was called off due to security concerns. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The laughs keep coming when Bert Kreischer hits Fantasy Springs Resort Casino May 22nd. Big energy, big comedy, one wild night. Get tickets now at FantasySpringsResort.com. That's FantasySpringsResort.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Oh, oh, oh. up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me.
Yeah. We all know it's Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes technically, but it's really Theodore Pendergrass. Call him Teddy Bear. Love that track. Hadn't heard it in a while. Thank you, Miles. How appropriate given the show today. We have been playing some of the best audio of the Brother Minister Malcolm X on what would have been his 101st birthday today. Last year, on his centennial birthday, we were blessed to be in conversation with his eldest child, he and Dr. Betty Shabazz, Ambassador Atala Shabazz, our guest 1 year ago today. And here we are a year later, and Malcolm would have been celebrating his 101st birthday today. And so it's been fascinating to hear his voice from the 60s and squaring what he was saying then with the mess we found ourselves in now. I told you it was going to be a great frame of today's show, and it has been. We've reached the final hour of today's program. Two great conversations, I should say additionally great conversations. We've had some great guests on today. We closed today's show on the back half of this hour with the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Karen Ruth Bass. Mayor Bass joins us again for the last half hour of today's program to talk about this challenging, there's one word for it, re-election campaign she finds herself in here in the city of L.A. as the first woman mayor, the second African-American, only second to Tom Bradley, who I had a chance, the honor, I should say, of working for. So we talked to Mayor Bass on the backside of this hour. We commenced this hour, though, with Dr. Robert Drummond, physician scientist, our resident physician, as we call him, talking about this Hantavirus. I don't know how you pronounce it, Hantavirus. We'll talk about that in a minute here, but also about the controversial conversation about the credentials of Cheyenne Bryant. We were laughing about this earlier, Dr. Drummond. I said, Dr. Drummond, I'm sure wants some of this. And my only, I said, I haven't talked to him about it yet, but my sense is he wants to opine on this Cheyenne Drummond ridiculousness, in part because if you've worked your behind off to get a real MD or a real PhD, you don't take kindly to folk lying about having professional degrees. I can see how a whole lot of folk will be offended by what she's attempted to do, Ms. Bryant, that is. We'll get to that a little bit later in this half hour. But first of all, it's good to hear your voice, Dr. Drummond. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good to have you back. Let me start with this Hantavirus. We all saw this story. We saw it on this cruise ship. I've been reading more about this Ebola outbreak. I mean, so I start with this. It's hard to know, as we sit here in the West, as we sit here in the U.S. of A., it's hard to know when stuff breaks out over there, wherever there is, how seriously we ought to take this stuff. And I mean we as in, the demos in this country, but I'm also meaning we in terms of the black community. So we hear about this, we hear about that. All right, it's making news, gets our attention, but again, we don't always know how seriously we should take this stuff. So that's my frame. Operate inside of it as you will, sir.
I will say, first, always great to be back. I will say every time I'm on, I have to give I basically have to say whether or not the sky is falling. We've been doing that since COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And the sky is not falling right now as it relates to Hantavirus. When it comes to Hantavirus, it's actually a very, very rare virus. And not only is it a very rare virus, it actually doesn't spread very well from humans to humans. It's a virus that actually lives within rats, and we get it from inhaling the area around where rats have been urinating or defecating, etc., or touching that area and then touching our faces. The problem with Hantavirus is that it actually has a very high mortality rate. So we're talking about right now, we have 11 cases that have been confirmed, 9 definite cases, 2 that are suspected as of this morning. But of those 9 confirmed cases, 3 of them have died. So you're talking about something that has anywhere from a 20 to 40% mortality rate, which is huge. That is why there is the initial concern. But as of right now, there have been no new cases that we know of outside of those.
Yeah. When we hear, again, stories like these, my read as a member of the media is that we run these stories. I think part of this. Let me just back up. On this side of COVID, and I say this side, knowing I'm talking to a physician scientist who may push me back on that and say, Tavis, we ain't never on this side of it. I'll let him respond in a moment as he will. But in my mind, on this side of COVID, whenever we see a virus outbreak, the media just takes it and runs with it. I think part of what happens is that people are made to be fearful by the way these stories are reported. And that's why you need a physician scientist like Dr. Drummond to come on and say, hey, not so fast. The sky is not falling. This thing does not spread well from human to human. Let's be clear about the number of cases. High mortality rate. But, your exposure to this is limited. It's minimal. I mean, choose your word. My point is that, again, on this side of COVID, whenever there's any story about any sort of virus, I think the media just goes crazy with it, Dr. Drummond.
I agree with you 100%. We are on this side of COVID from the perspective that it is not a worldwide pandemic. It is a virus that we're going to learn to live with.
Right.
Whenever human beings, and I said this during COVID, whenever human beings are exposed to a new virus worldwide, there are going to be some individuals who just won't survive. And that's the sad case. And that's what happened with COVID. So now the majority of individuals are living with it, and we're going to do okay. There's still going to be individuals that are asymptomatic. Some are going to be sick and some are going to pass. Very similar to what happened with the influenza, as we would say. Now, as regards to this, yes, there's an initial outcry. I think part of it is it's a new story, so let's jump on it. Let's get kind of sensationalize it.
Yeah.
Let's get some clicks. But then also, we do need to be cautiously optimistic. We need to observe, and we need to take it seriously. And a lot of places did not take COVID seriously, especially the U.S. very, very, very early on, and we paid for that. So, but we do need to do exactly what you said, is talk to individuals who are in the field or who understand the field and can give an honest, educated opinion in regards to this, to either let us know, hey, we need to be worried, or hey, let's calm down a little bit. It's not that bad, and give the reasons on why it's not that bad. And I think that's the case here.
I promised we'd get to Cheyenne Bryant later in this half hour. Let Dr. Drummond opine as he will. When we come forward, though, before I get to that, I do want to give him a chance to talk about this breaking news literally today. The WHO, the World Health Organization, their chief has raised the alarm over the scale of this Ebola outbreak after the death toll has climbed dramatically, specifically in places like the Congo and Uganda. But I raise this in part because of all the things we can indict the Trump administration for. It's a long list of stuff, of course, we can indict them for. As I often say, Dr. Drummond, my aim and end is not to make him political. But I see so many things happening on the continent of Africa right now that have a direct line to this administration just abandoning any commitment to Africa, just abandoning it. That could be AIDS, the PEPFAR program that George W. Bush put in place. It's the best thing George Bush did. I mean, I give him credit for that. But I see so many examples, so much evidence of things happening on the African continent that are breaking out, pardon the pun, in large measure because our abandonment when it comes to Africa policy. It's what Dr. Barber just called a moment ago on this station, on this program, I should say, policy violence. Policy violence inflicted upon Africa. That's my assessment. We'll hear what Dr. Drummond has to say about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic, and when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds.
Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and our resident physician, Dr. Robert Drummond, who we invited on to talk about this Hantavirus, the story you've been seeing the last number of days. And again, just trying to get some truth out there about how exposed you really are or are not to these viruses when they break out. In case you've just tuned in, we were talking about the fact that in moments like these, the media just goes crazy after the COVID situation. Any virus that breaks out, they're going to just write about it as if the sky is falling. And so I just wanted to kind of calm everybody down in that regard. But this is not something, this next story is something not to be calm about. The head of the World Health Organization, the WHO, is raising alarm bells today over the scale and outbreak of this Ebola virus. This death toll is climbing rather dramatically, and it's causing some concern, specifically in the Congo and in Uganda. I raise it again because we seem to, kind of turn a blind eye, a deaf ear to oftentimes what happens on the continent. But there's an indictment here, and again, I'm going to make it. I'm not trying to make Dr. Drummond political, but I'll make the indictment that in so many ways I see things happening. Not so good things happening on the continent of Africa, in large part because the U.S. has abandoned its commitment to this continent. And if I had the time, I could run a long list of ways in which this administration has just abandoned Africa. They've called, this president has called certain countries their S-hole countries. He has embarrassed and humiliated inside the Oval Office. We've seen the video. We've seen the tape. We've seen it live on CNN. The president humiliating and embarrassing African leaders to their face in the Oval Office. So, again, I could run the list all day if I had the time. But there's a mockery, there's an abandonment, pick your word, for the way in which we are showing up, or frankly not showing up, as it were, as relates to the continent. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when we turn a blind eye. I digress for now. Dr. Drummond, get in where you fit in.
Well, I agree with everything that you just said. I think it's very sad. I think, from the U.S. perspective, I think everyone knows we've kind of gone from an aid to trade kind of policy when we view Africa, meaning no longer kind of taking care of them, but, we're going to basically try to pull from them as opposed to actually giving to them.
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing the same thing in regards to we've, pulled our military out of certain areas, which kind of makes them a little bit more vulnerable. But I think the biggest part about it is the lack of support, specifically when it comes to times like this. We should be at the forefront of creating a vaccine and working to create a vaccine for Ebola. And I think the current administration's viewpoint is let it stay there, let it kill all of them, and close off the border so that they can't come over here. That really seems to be kind of the response to it. And I think we've always tried to lead the way around the world when it comes to things like this. So for us to take the exact opposite approach, I think it's sad. I think a lot of things that we've done during this administration, not just foreign, but domestic as well, when it comes to, of course, area of my expertise, biomedical research, we've set ourselves back decades, with the reducing funds, not just, again, internationally, but domestically for biomedical research. We've really set ourselves back decades, and we actually are in worse shape than we were before the pandemic when it comes to finding a cure for or treatment for some of these next viruses that may actually hit home.
You said a few things I want to get to right quick here, and then we'll push our way to a final conversation about Ms. Bryant. But so far, as of today, 131 deaths linked to this outbreak of Ebola on the continent right now, 131 today, but they are afraid that the scale and the outbreak is growing, not shrinking, and so they fully expect, sadly, these numbers to rise rather dramatically. But 131 deaths on the continent so far linked to this latest Ebola outbreak. You used the V word a moment ago, and that V word, of course, would be vaccine. We've abandoned our commitment, again, not just to this continent, but we've abandoned our commitment, essentially to vaccines. A lot of that starts with, our RFK Jr. Running the Health and Human Services Department. And there's something I've never quite understood. So there's no naivete here, but I want to just put this to you because you're right. We could be at the forefront right now of working overtime to create a vaccine to deal with this Ebola outbreak. That's just not something we're interested in doing right now for a variety of reasons, some of which Dr. Drummond and yours truly have just listed. But here's my point, my question. So Donald Trump is president when COVID breaks out, in this country. And it was during that time and during that tenure that we worked overtime, your industry, that is, Dr. Drummond, worked overtime to find these vaccines. And as a result, millions of lives, thousands of lives have been saved. No matter what one thinks of these vaccines, it's hard to argue that these vaccines didn't save lives. In the COVID era, when we rushed, again, worked overtime to come up with these remedies. So that happened in Trump 1.0. Fast forward to Trump 2.0, and they have a hostility toward these vaccines. I don't quite get that. Do you?
Well, what happened is that there were actually a lot of people dying immediately. And that was the big push to saying, hey, we have to do something. And I think there were a lot of Americans that were dying. And I think sometimes our administration they care more about when it's happening to us as opposed to when it's happening globally, not understanding that we're all connected. I had the great pleasure of serving on panels with and talking with Dr. Barney Graham, who was the previous deputy director for the Vaccine Research Center over at the NIH. And he held that position for, I believe, the first 25 years of existence, appointed by President Clinton. And he was responsible for helping to oversee the Moderna vaccine over at the NIH and at the VRC. And we've talked about that a number of times. And I was privileged to have him on my Instagram page live, to have him talk to my followers to explain what I mentioned earlier. Research doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the decades before, leading up to a crisis.
Right.
And when you cut that funding for that, you significantly cripple our ability to fight the next virus. And from this perspective, because Ebola's never hit America, I can say that, the American administrations have never put a large emphasis on trying to find a vaccine to eradicate it. And so that's kind of where we are right now. It's an unfortunate thing, but we are a part of a global community, and what happens in Africa will somehow, some way affect us here.
And that is the point. You put your finger right on it. That is the ultimate point. And if we abandon this kind of research, if we abandon efforts to work on vaccines, you're right. We're being crippled, to use your word. Let me just ask one final question on this matter. I was talking to an expert the other day from the Joint Center back in D.C., and he was making it clear to me in this audience, which was just hard to hear, that Donald Trump still has a couple of years left, of course, in this term. So Trump 2.0 is still a couple of years away from being done. Today is primary day in a number of states as we push toward these midterms in November. But Donald Trump still got a couple more years to do a great deal more damage. The bull in the as a bull in the china shop, That's how he shows up for me. He's a bull in a china shop. He got 2 more years of just running around breaking stuff. I raised that because this expert was saying to us in this conversation, Dr. Drummond, that at this point right now in Trump 2.0, it will take black people 2 generations, not 2 years, not a couple decades. It's going to take 2 generations for us to catch up economically to where we were when he took over. We're already 2 generations down, trying to catch up, trying to get back to where we were when he took office. Now, there's always a way for, God help us to redeem that time. But at the moment, we're 2 generations back, 2 generations down, just to get caught up to where we were, economically speaking, when Donald Trump took office. I just want to underscore how sobering that data point is. I raised that, as you've already figured out, because of your point about how badly crippled we have been, how much ground we've lost in medical research because of Donald Trump. Now, I'm not expecting you to tell me we're 2 generations behind, but I am curious as to what you and your colleagues talk about. What's being said in the world of physician scientist research about how far back, how depleted we are going to be in the years to come, because they want to apply the resources to these crises that are in the offing today.
I have a much more sobering and unfortunate response. From speaking with my colleagues who are still in academics, in some areas definitely set us back decades, but in other areas there's been irrevocable damage. There have been experiments and projects that were halted, stopped, and erased that we could never start over again. When you have something and you're studying a virus and you're cultivating it in a lab, you can't just cut the funding and kill all the viruses and then try to create it again. It just doesn't work. Some of these happened over time, natural mutations, et cetera.
Right.
Some of these are mouse models that took a decade or so to create. So in some areas, we've done decades of damage, and it'll take a long time to get back there. And in some areas, we've actually done irrevocable damage, and there are some lanes of research that may never come up again. That's the sad, sobering reality.
Yeah, well, enough of that. Thanks for the good news. I deeply appreciate it. Somehow that answer doesn't surprise me, but I wanted to ask you just to put you on the record. All right, got 4 minutes left here. Let's pivot now to this Cheyenne Bryant story. I had to catch up on this myself, but I've seen everybody online talking about it, and she's been appearing here and there defending herself. I can assure you she would not be invited to appear on this program to defend herself, but I've seen her in a variety of spaces, and I think people who have worked hard, as you and others have done, to earn legitimate MDs or PhDs get offended when people start lying about their credentials. Am I onto something here? Or am I missing it completely?
Well, one, not just MDs or PhDs. Some of us have both. Yep. But I will say this.
I ain't mad at you.
I will say this. I think it's really more about in the big picture. Okay, so much damage can be done when someone is portraying themselves to be one thing and giving bad advice to individuals. And there have been a lot of people that have come out online saying that this happened and I said this and everyone cast me as a hater, etc. I understand that some individuals have honorary degrees and they have their place, I think. But when it comes to real expertise, whether it's mental health or physical health, people have to listen to individuals that have trained and that are licensed and that are basically have gone through all the proper training and regulations to know what they're saying when they're speaking to you. Because I said this on one of my social media platforms. I said, whether it's mental health or physical health, we strive for perfection because being less than perfect could mean someone's death. Mm-hmm. So it's not like other fields where you get to make a mistake and say, oh, it's not that bad. We make a mistake, people die. Mm-hmm. And it happens every day in every hospital in the country. And because we're humans, but we try to limit that, right? Well, one way of limiting that is making sure you have the correct training, you have the correct courses to do so. So when someone has such a large platform in a world where social media and individuals with platforms basically trumps, people believe that platform equals credentials, and someone is actively, continuously being less than forthright about their actual earned credentials, and more has come out. It seems like every time something else comes out, she digs herself in a bigger hole and tells another lie to try to cover up the last lie, and then people say, no, that's not true because I was in the same situation and I did this. It's a lot of gaslighting. I just say this: we're finally in a place in the world of mental health where we as a people, specifically Black people, feel comfortable seeking therapy and seeking help because it was taboo in the Black community for decades, for a very long time. And so much damage can be done by one person who is portraying themselves to be one thing and they actually aren't. And so I just tell everyone, whether it's myself, please feel free to look up all of my credentials. There are a lot of them. Feel free to look up anything and understand why Brother Tavis Smiley has me on this show. But anyone that's giving you medical advice, that's giving you therapeutic advice, look up their credentials and make sure that they know what they're talking about.
No, I take your point. A lie is never good, but there's some things you ought not be lying about. And to your point, when you are dealing in the space of Black people's mental health, a lie ain't helping nobody. And to your point, it could hurt people and could cause harm and cause death in the worst case scenario. So she's fighting the wrong fight. You're lying about the wrong thing, and ain't nothing funny about that. But I digress for now. He is our resident physician. He is a physician scientist, Dr. Robert Drummond. Doc, thanks for your insights, man. All the best to you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
When we come forward to the last half hour of today's program, as promised, a conversation with the mayor of the City of Angels, Karen Bass. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says more prescription drugs are being added to the Trump RX website.
So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Speaking at the White House event, he said the expansion will significantly increase discounted medications and could save Americans hundreds of billions in costs. Memphis police say a bomb threat forced an evacuation at the National Civil Rights Museum over the weekend. The facility was cleared as a precaution while authorities searched the area. No explosives were found, and the incident came the same day the museum unveiled its new legacy experience. And Kanye West's planned concert in India has been canceled after a series of European show disruptions. Organizers say the New Delhi event set for May 23rd was called off due to security concerns. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
PCH is open. Take the 101 freeway to Canaan Road. Malibu is open for business. Enjoy a scenic drive through the mountains and return to the beautiful beach. A beach day is always a better day. It's open and waiting for you.
Sponsored by Recreation Alliance.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up!
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Let's close today's show, these last 25 minutes, in conversation with the mayor of the city of Angels, Mayor Karen Ruth Bass, who I'm honored to have back on this program. Obviously, this program is being heard in L.A. by a local audience, but because we are nationally syndicated, for that I am grateful, as I often say. The nation right now is hearing from Mayor Bass, and I want to start, first of all, giving her a chance to frame the way she sees this race for the national audience. The national audience, of course, is tapped into, I think, pretty interestingly, the governor's race. We had that governor's debate on CNN not too long ago. James Clyburn was on this program yesterday giving a huge endorsement to Karen Bass, his friend. So you heard James Clyburn lean in pretty heavily for his friend Karen Bass, again, just yesterday. But again, the nation has been, I think, tracking the governor's race for a lot of different reasons, but I want to give the mayor a chance, in her own words, to frame for the national audience what this race is, what it isn't, what it's about. We'll talk about some issues here with her, but let me start, though, by thanking you, Mayor, for showing up for that big Black History Month event. I am still hearing from Martin Lawrence and D.L. Hughley and Dion Cole and Earthquake and Lunell and Melanie Camacho. They love that you showed up and so honored them at that luncheon. So thank you for accepting our invitation to honor these Black comedians earlier this year.
Well, Tavis, if you call me, I come.
You're kind.
If KBLA wants me to be on or to promote something or to support, I am always willing and ready to be there. And I appreciate you asking about the nationalization of this race, because I think, different from the governor's race, this is being nationalized because of the unbelievable use of artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And we haven't ever quite seen anything like this before. And I think that people will be observing it around the country. To have Spencer Pratt, which is basically, he is a Republican, and to have a lot of people who we will discover along the way have very, very deep ties to the Republican Party, even though he's trying to run a nonpartisan race. So you have Spencer Pratt on the one hand, and then you have the councilwoman on the other hand. And so I think, to me, this is a race about whether we are going to continue to move LA forward or whether we're going to double down on the past, on the status quo, and on strategies and programs that have not worked. And Tavis, you know that my number one reason for running was because of the humanitarian crisis on our street that profoundly, disproportionately affects Black folk. Black folk are 9% of the population in LA, but we are over 30% of the people who are sleeping in tents and dying on our streets every day. And more than likely this morning, 4 people did not wake up, because that's what happens on the streets of LA. And I am proud that for 2 years in a row, for the first time, Tavis, we have seen a reduction in street homelessness. We have further to go, of course, which is why I'm running, so I can finish my job.
Yep. There's no doubt about the fact that Black people, Black men in particular, I don't need to educate the mayor on this, she's the expert here. Black men in particular are sadly the face of homelessness across this country. How that happened, I don't even know how we became the face of homelessness, but I digress on that for now. What you have been touting, as I'm paying attention on the campaign trail, is this upward trend in housing and a downward trend in homelessness. Clearly, those two things are connected. Tell me more.
Yes, but also let me add in, though, that the fastest growing sector of the homeless population are senior citizen women who are also disproportionately Black. So I'm talking about women in their late 60s and 70s who worked in the service industry, no pension, no 401k, and nobody can survive in our city off Social Security. If you're fortunate enough to have it, they raise your rent on an apartment, and before you know it, you're on the street. And so that is the case. I mean, homelessness went up 18% in the country. But LA also, and Tavis, you and I grew up here, so you know that our city used to be affordable, and it isn't anymore. And the biggest driver that I have anything to do with is housing. And so I have, through using my executive authority, fast-tracked 42,000 units of housing that is currently underway, and 6,000 of those units are currently under construction right now. The other thing I've done is passed policy measures to allow office buildings to be transformed into housing, and that's actually beginning to take place. Although 2 years ago people said it was not possible, it is happening around the city. So anything and everything that I can do to prevent homelessness. So I started a nonprofit that is focusing on preventing homelessness, and then rent stabilization ordinance so that people's rents can't be raised over a certain amount. So it is a comprehensive approach, Tavis, to making LA more affordable, to getting our people off the street. And in a second term, I want to continue this, but I also want to increase the services that are provided to people once you do get them off the street. That is something that is missing in the system. And I will note that this system has been dysfunctional for over 3 decades. So I didn't want to come into office and spend the first year studying something. I wanted to come in and act while figuring out what was wrong and building a new system, and that's where we are now.
You introduced the word, so let me follow you, Mayor. You're being heard again across the country right now, including in New York City, where the issue of affordability worked rather well for the now Mayor, Mr. Mondami. He rode that issue to success, and it's not so much about riding it to success. It is the point that affordability is a major, major issue in this mayor's race. There are a number of folk who thought about getting in. They eventually did not, but they were raising the issue of affordability in their pre-campaigns, as it were. And so it's an issue that's on the minds of people. Just talk to me briefly here about the issue of affordability and why on that issue Karen Bass should be reelected.
Yes, well, absolutely. And Tavis, 4 years ago when I launched my campaign, the centerpiece of the campaign was affordability. Understanding that the most extreme manifestation of that are people on our streets, but also the need to bring down the cost of housing. So this has been a through line for me for the last 4 years. It will continue in the second term when I see these units that we fast tracked actually come to fruition, and where we use the games coming our way to help uplift our neighborhoods in terms of that we benefit financially from these games.
Yeah.
And that means KBLA.
Nope, I appreciate that deeply. There are a number of things I want to ask the mayor about when we come forward. Let me tee up for you and for her where we want to go in the 15 minutes I have left with her in no particular order. I do want to ask her, speaking of public policy, about hiring police officers. It seems to me that black mayors in particular find themselves oftentimes in a tricky space when you're when you're advancing notions of hiring more police, given the way the police oftentimes tend to maltreat black people. Tricky, thorny terrain to have to navigate. We'll ask her about that when we come forward. We'll ask her about how and why it is that the top 4 cities in this country, the 4 largest cities at one point, all had black mayors. Sylvester Turner in Houston, Karen Bass in L.A., Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Eric Adams in New York, and every one of them is in some hot water, some trouble. Sylvester Turner, of course, is now deceased, but Houston no longer has a black mayor. I was just in Chicago. Brandon Johnson's in trouble there, underwater in terms of the poll numbers. Eric Adams is gone. We're talking to Karen Bass. It's the case that somewhere down the road, these top 4 cities won't anymore have a black mayor. Want to ask her how she's sensing her relationship with Donald Trump. My sense is that her anti-Trump stance has in fact been her superpower, but I also saw her in the White House talking to Donald Trump the other day. What's that about? And we'll circle back to these 2 opponents. One I consider completely unserious. The other I consider thirsty, but that's just me. What the mayor has to say when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This show was built for you, for the community, for the culture, for everyone who wants more than headlines, for everyone who wants meaning. Tavis Smiley has always believed that public media can change lives, and every single day, that's what he comes to work to do. You're listening to Tavis Smiley, your voice, your issues, your show.
As we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hughley, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you. That's on the way.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
My time is tight. Her schedule is busy. Let's make the most of these last 13, 12 minutes we have in conversation with the mayor of the city of L.A., Karen Ruth Bass. I should mention very quickly, speaking of programming, we mentioned the governor's race here moments ago. Javier Becerra, one of the front runners in this race, is a guest on this program on Thursday in our second hour. Tom Steyer's been here, for that matter. Steve Hilton was here the other day. Javier Becerra comes in Thursday, second hour on this programming note. There you have it. But we continue now with the mayor of L.A., Karen Bass. Mayor, seems to me, I use the word tricky and thorny. You tell me, you're the mayor, but the terrain that a black mayor in particular has to navigate when it comes to hiring more police looks like what?
Looks like what? I'm sorry?
The terrain that a black mayor has to navigate trying to hire more police.
Tavis, I think it's a broader question than that. I mean, I think it's the terrain a black mayor has to deal with, period.
Right.
And yes, when I came in, there were 4 of us. And, 2 of us are gone, even though there was a righteous fight, at least in Houston. But, we did not succeed.
Right.
And so I think that, we're in the terrain. It has to be in a bigger context where when the administration came in, the first group he went after were black folk. He fired all the high-ranking African Americans, be it in the military or the civilian side. And then Doge came in with a disproportionate impact. The first mayors under investigation were the 4 of us. We all received letters. By the way, we received those letters from Leo Terrell. The first the first federal investigation was about anti-Semitism. Each of us got one. And so I think it's a bigger issue than that. And then I think, black communities have always had issues with law enforcement. And I think that what a black mayor faces is you have to reconcile with that. You can't go to war with your police department. But we face a particular issue here that's challenging for us. In a minute, we won't have any number of black officers in LAPD. And as a community, we have to decide if that's okay. I don't think it is. Even though we've had our challenges with the police department, I don't want a police department that has no black officers. So while we navigate our historic issues with policing, we still have to figure out how to run a department. And what's challenging for each of us as mayors, and we absolutely have talked about that, is that we have multiple constituencies. So for example, in the West Valley, that is predominantly white, they want a very visible presence from LAPD. Right now, they're going through a spike in crime, robberies. And so they want black and whites, they want drones, they want horses, they want it all. Obviously, South LA has never asked for that. And so under my watch, I do different things. In one part of town, if that's what you want, and another part of town, you want more of grid, you want more prevention work. That's why I started, Tavis, on day 1, a Office of Community Safety. Because as you know, at Community Coalition, we were piloting these programs where we would do violence intervention, violence prevention, interruption, hiring former folks who were involved in the gang life, who have aged out or left that lifestyle and now want to give back to their communities. I've invested a lot in that. That's the work I've done for years. Yeah. So I don't believe it's either or, it's both and it's different depending on where you are in the city.
I was in Chicago the other day, and Mayor Johnson asked me how you were doing and said, say hello to you. I said, when I talk to her again, which I think will be this week, I will tell her you said hello. So Mayor Brandon Johnson, Chicago, sends his regards to my mayor, Karen Bass. Speaking of my mayor, when we come forward in our remaining moments with her, I got a Trump question, and I want to circle back to talk about these 2 candidates. In just a second here, you're listening to Mayor Karen Bass in L.A. on Tavis Smiley.
In a world full of noise, one voice cuts through. Tavis Smiley has never backed down from the hard questions, never shied away from speaking truth to power and to the powerless, and he's not about to start now. This is the show people talk about, the one your co-workers quote, the one that gets under your skin in the best way. Tavis Smiley, nationally syndicated, unapologetically progressive, unapologetically real.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, AMAD supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. AMAD provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like nuclear reactor safety expert.
I disabled the backup cooling system. It was making such an annoying noise. You heard it, right? It was like,
We're on the countdown to core failure.
And you're saying we don't want that?
This is the time for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Mayor Bass, I got less than 5 minutes left with you. So let's do a lightning round here. I think I want to start with Donald Trump. There was a point at which, as I followed your administration in this first term, you stepped up your critique. That's my phraseology. You don't have to accept it. But you stepped up your critique of Donald Trump. I call it your anti-Trump superpower. That's how I see it. Do you see it differently?
No, I don't see it differently. And I'm going to tell you something. I have no problem standing up to Trump. I did it for 4 years when I was there in his first term in Congress. I have no problem doing it again. The reality of this, though, is that I need $8 billion. The reality is that there is no city that can function without federal support, especially our city that has gone through the worst natural disaster in many, many decades. Because I served in Congress, Tavis, I also know a number of members of his cabinet, some of whom I have a great working relationship with. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Lee Zeldin, he's a Republican who we did George Floyd Justice and Policing Act together. Yeah. So the minute Trump attacked me and said he was sending somebody over here to basically oversee me, I'm on the phone with Lee Zeldin right away. So I have to figure out how to do both things, but I am not shy from criticizing him. I'll continue to do that, but I will also acknowledge the fact that we cannot afford to have federal money cut off from our city. So I learned how to do both, and I have the relationship and the history in Congress that will allow me to do both.
I appreciate that. Again, the time is tight. Let me do this right quick here. As I said earlier, there are two persons that sort of stand out in this race right now in terms of your opponents. You mentioned them earlier, Spencer Pratt. I consider a completely unserious candidate. All you really got to know is that he's a pro-Alex Jones guy, and what you really need to know is that he's endorsed by Elon Musk. That's all I need to know, that he's endorsed by Elon Musk. I'll leave that where the good Lord done flung it, number one. The other person, City Councilwoman Nithya Raman, I consider thirsty. Once she endorsed you and then all of a sudden she decides she's going to run against you, I still ain't quite figured that out. But what's your assessment of these opponents, though?
Well, I mean, I would agree with you. I think that Spencer Pratt's goal is to be famous, and his goal is also to do a reality show. And rumor has it that he's already under contract for a show that he would bring into City Hall, but has been documenting the race. In terms of Nithya Raman, the councilwoman who I had worked in partnership with, I think it's interesting that she wants to be mayor, but she struggles. She doesn't even have the support of one of her colleagues, not one of them. And I just announced the endorsement of 2 more members of the city council. So the overwhelming majority of the council has supported me because she doesn't have the ability to build coalitions and get things done.
Yeah.
So she can't get things done as a council member. I'm not exactly sure why she thinks she's going to be able to do that as mayor.
Here's my exit question. I'll circle back to where you started this conversation. What did you mean, just tell me a bit more in 60 seconds, about the way that AI is showing up in this race in ways I assume that you're not happy with?
Well, no, of course not. I mean, it's racist, it's sexist, it's violent. No, of course I'm not happy with any of it. But I will say, though, that this is the first time there's such an extensive use of AI, and he produces multiple spots a day. It's also interesting as to where the money is coming from. And so I think that there's a lot of precedent that is getting set or could be getting set, but we need to pay careful attention to it because the implications of elections moving forward, I mean, we're already in this territory because of Trump and his influence from his first administration, where truth is a relative term. And you can say anything at all, but now to add AI onto it, I think it's dangerous territory that we are entering.
A full busy schedule while she's campaigning for re-election, but I thank her for these 30 minutes, and we'll have her back at the appropriate time. Mayor Bass, thanks for your insights. Always an honor to have you on this program.
And I'm always happy to come on whenever you want to hear from me, Tavis.
Thank you, Mayor Bass. Just like that, 3 hours are gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says more prescription drugs are being added to the Trump RX website.
So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Speaking at the White House event, he said the expansion will significantly increase discounted medications and could save Americans hundreds of billions in costs. Memphis police say a bomb threat forced an evacuation at the National Civil Rights Museum over the weekend. The facility was cleared as a precaution while authorities searched the area. No explosives were found, and the incident came the same day the museum unveiled its new legacy experience. And Kanye West's planned concert in India has been canceled after a series of European show disruptions. Organizers say the New Delhi event set for May 23rd was called off due to security concerns. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The laughs keep coming when Bert Kreischer hits Fantasy Springs Resort Casino May 22nd. Big energy, big comedy, one wild night. Get tickets now at FantasySpringsResort.com. That's FantasySpringsResort.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When the Oklahoma City Thunder swept the Lakers in the second round of the NBA playoffs, there was nobody on the Lakers roster who came close to the talent level of Victor Wembanyama. OKC found out Monday night that they have a serious upgrade in competition in the Western Conference Finals. Wembanyama had a dominating performance in Game 1 for the San Antonio Spurs, 41 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 block shots. The numbers added up to a 122-115 victory for the Spurs in double overtime in Oklahoma City. At age 22, Wembanyama is the youngest player in NBA history to have at least 40 points and 20 rebounds in a playoff game. OKC has a lot of work to do to figure out how to handle this rising superstar. Game 2 is Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Cleveland at New York, 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause cause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. The Jesse Jackson Junior show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And I am feeling good on this Tenacious Tuesday because Donald John Trump and the administration have given us some red meat to chew on today. Trump just created a white grievance reparations fund. Reparations do not require legislation from the Congress of the United States in order to pay out people who've been aggrieved, who've been wronged, who've been waiting in a long line for repair for damages done.